Once upon a time, in a small village at the foot of a great mountain, there lived a young man named Marcus. Marcus was not the strongest or the fastest, but he had a dream to climb the great mountain that towered over his home. Many had tried, but few had succeeded. The mountain was steep, the winds were harsh, and the path was full of dangers. But Marcus believed that if he could reach the top, he would find something greater than himself, a strength he had never known. Marcus knew that the journey would not be easy. He had heard stories of others who had tried and failed. Some gave up when the climb became too hard. Others turned back when the cold bit their skin. A few even lost their way in the storms that swept the mountain without warning. But Marcus was determined. He had studied the teachings of the Stoics, the ancient philosophers, who believed that true strength came not from avoiding hardship, but from facing it with courage and wisdom. He began his preparations not with physical training alone, but with his mind. Every morning, he would sit quietly and remind himself of the Stoic principle: we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. He imagined the worst: freezing winds, slippery rocks, the pain in his muscles, and he told himself that these things would not break him. They would only make him stronger. The day came when Marcus set out on his journey. The first hours were easy. The sun was warm, the path was clear, and his body felt light. But as he climbed higher, the air grew thin, and his legs began to ache. The rocks became sharper, the wind colder. Doubt crept into his mind. What if I fail? What if I cannot go on? But then he remembered the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus: difficulties show what men are. He took a deep breath and kept moving. Then came the storm. Dark clouds rolled in, and the wind howled like a wild beast. Snow began to fall, covering the path. Marcus could barely see his own hands in front of him. Fear gripped his heart. For a moment, he thought of turning back. But then he recalled another Stoic lesson: the obstacle is the way. The storm was not his enemy, it was his teacher. If he could endure this, he could endure anything. He found a small ledge where he could rest, wrapped himself tightly in his cloak, and waited. The cold was unbearable. His fingers and toes burned with numbness. But he did not complain. Instead, he focused on what he could control: his breath, his thoughts, his will. He told himself, this too shall pass. And it did. The storm faded, the sky cleared, and Marcus continued his climb. His body was exhausted, but his spirit was stronger than ever. Step by step, he pushed forward. The higher he went, the more he understood what the Stoics meant by resilience. It was not about never falling. It was about rising every time he did. Finally, after days of struggle, Marcus reached the summit. The view was breathtaking. The world stretched out below him, vast and beautiful. But what surprised him most was not the sight. It was the feeling inside. He had faced his fears, endured the pain, and never gave up. He had built grit not by avoiding hardship, but by walking straight through it. As he stood there, wind whipping around him, Marcus realized something important. The mountain had not changed him. It had revealed him. The strength, the resilience, the courage, they had been inside him all along. The Stoics were right. We do not need to wait for easy times to be strong. We can choose strength now, in the midst of the struggle. Marcus descended the mountain a different man. The villagers noticed it too. There was a calm in his eyes, a steadiness in his step. When others asked him how he had done it, he simply said, I accepted the climb. And so the story of Marcus spread. Not because he was the fastest or the strongest, but because he had shown what it truly means to have grit. He had proven that resilience is not something you are born with. It is something you build, one challenge at a time. The Stoics teach us that life is like that mountain. There will always be storms, always be pain, always be moments when we want to quit. But if we face them with a Stoic heart, if we accept what we cannot change and focus on what we can, we will find that we are stronger than we ever believed. Grit is not about never falling. It is about getting up. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It is about growing through it. And the Stoic way is not a path of ease. It is a path of strength. So the next time you face your own mountain, remember Marcus. Remember that the struggle is not your enemy. It is your teacher. And remember the words of the Stoics. What stands in the way becomes the way. Stand firm. Keep climbing. And one day, you too will see how far you have come.